Okay, just got to get this out there, even though, I really should stop doing my editing, but there's been so many other things I've had to capitalise on today, weather being what it is, and, got these downloads. And so many times I have been questioning what you, the viewer, are doing here. And the issue is simply this, that many of you have been watching me for many years. And it just appears that the vast majority of you, after all this time, you still struggle with what I'm saying. And I've blustered about NPCs and muggles and muppets and drones and all this sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, at the root of it, there is a condition. And the condition is the vast majority of people don't want to think or don't have the ability to think. Now, I'm speaking from experience again because I can measure how I think. And I can measure when I am taxed. And I can measure what happens to my egoic mind when it is taxed. It very readily wants to dismiss whatever it is that is being forced upon it to think about. And what you have to do is you have to have great fortitude. You really have to narrow down, you have to eliminate all other thoughts, and you have to focus with the greatest of energy and tension. And it very often isn't that easy. If there's something that you can't work out, it's paradoxical, or it's just a difficult thing to think about. I mean, these big questions, they're difficult to think about. And you need to think about them a long time, and you need to be concentrated. So what I know about people who have, thought great things and have got great minds, they have the power of concentration. Like mathematicians or like philosophers or, I don't know, like scientists, I suppose. These sort of people, they need to have the greatest powers of concentration, whereby other so-called genius people, like artists, they don't need to have this concentrated processing ability, which you have to work through. It's like you're macheting through a jungle. You've just got to keep driving forward until things become more clear to you, and then you inspect, and then you either keep or you discard, and then on you go like a botanist or something like this, seeking out for the root of something. And it's like, when I'm, out foraging, there's one level of, how people could forage, and that's a very obvious level. And people who aren't too serious and desirous to find these things, then they'll just, there's nothing there, there's something over there, and they'll have a look at that, it's this and it's that, and they won't look at the fine details, which you need to if you're going to be like some variety of amateur mycologists. You've got to look into the details of these things, and most people don't want to do that. They find the details boring and too taxing. It actually is a thing where people get brain fog, and we've all had brain fog at certain degrees in our lives, and so you'll know what I'm speaking about, and you will know that if you try to understand something that's been conveyed to you in literature, then it's just so easy, I can't be bothered to look up that word. There's 3 long words in that sentence, and so without knowing what those long words mean, the chances are I am not going to grasp what that sentence means. Never mind, maybe I'll get it later on. Maybe you won't. Maybe you've missed the only opportunity to grasp, because without grasping that, without laying the cornerstone, the foundation, then you've got nothing to build on. And so this is the whole issue with thinking about the things that I'm speaking about. And you know, in the comments today, there is people you know, who I've known that have been around a long time, that they're still asking very rudimentary questions. And I'm like, you shouldn't be asking those questions by now. I've gone over and over and over and over and over them, you know, ad nauseum, and until I'm almost exhausted with it, really. Almost exhausted with it. But then when you get somebody that, you know, thinks about these things themselves, like Zigzagzilla, you know, we had a great conversation. We've had lots of great conversations. And he has 4 of our 3-hour, or at least hour and a half, conversations on his channel. And I'm going to see if I can grab them and upload them, because they're 2 guys with a vast amount of information and a broad thinking ability, that there's a thought about these things for a long time, long and hard, and they've questioned everything, and we're still questioning. So you can see that that is a joy. We absolutely are thrilled every time we have one of these conversations. And so our first conversation goes back 5 years, 5 years in March. And but the vast majority of people, they don't have that cognizant ability. They've got different degrees of how their mind works. They may be brilliant artists, you may be brilliant in some other realm, but it's evident that you're not brilliant in philosophy or the spiritual realm of cognizing how all this stuff computes. Otherwise I would get pages and pages and pages of this stuff written by you guys, and I would have a list of people who queuing up to want to speak to me because they see me as possibly a person who could answer some of their questions. That's why Ziggy and I speak with one another, because we're thinking, has this person, you know, got the answer for us? Could he shed another insight on what I'm thinking about? Could I be wrong? I may be wrong. Let me see what he thinks. And because we're big thinkers, then we've got confidence and respect for each other. But with people who just go, oh, it's like this, oh, it's like that, we're both the same. We go, where do you get that? How do you derive at that? Show me the lineage of thought. Show me the Hansel and Gretel trail. Because if you just pick shit out your arse, or from the Bible, or whatever you've read, that's not going to cut it with us. And that's why I have a bone of contention with some of you guys that just won't let up, because you've just read a book and that's as far as you'll ever go in your life, and you're really confused, and it's a big problem, because you'd like to know what I know, you'd like to be able to see and feel what I feel, but you can't get it out of that book. You will never get it from that book. You will never get any spiritual substance from the Old and New Testament. It isn't possible, because those Old and New Testaments, that they are just allegories or illustrations, so you can contemplate how your mind and other people's minds work. They are just the first books on psychology, probably cognitive behavioural therapy. They're very basic in their allegories and their illustrations and all that. I mean, all of Jesus' illustrations, painstaking, laboriously simple. And, you know, for the peasants and muggles of the day. Now, here's the thing. God, being, you know, all-knowing and superior and the creator of the universe, he chose the outback of Israel with a few dusty peasants to send his son, or to make manifest as a man. He's God manifested in human form. He came down to sort this mess out for himself, because he'd been banging on and on and on. You know, the Old Testament, you know, was written 1,500 years before Jesus, you know, ever was a spark in his old woman's eye. And so Jehovah had been labouring this shit, you know, for 1.5 fucking millennia, people. And you see, you look at the Bible in its entirety now, the New Testament is 2,000 years old, but the Old Testament goes back another 1,500 years. And so, What I'm saying here is that, if God was such, a great thinking genius that creates the universe and everything like that, you would have thought that he would have manifested himself in the company of more intelligent beings. Now, Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, all these Greek philosophers that are around similar sort of times. I mean, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, they were around, between averagely about 300 years BC. So God, Jesus, could have made manifest in Greece. Why didn't he make manifest in the marketplace in Greece? Because I'm telling you now, he would have got a whole lot more results. And the literature which came out of it would have been vastly superior. When you got people like those great Greek philosophers talking to Jesus. Can you imagine Socrates talking? No, you can't imagine Socrates talking to Jesus, because you've got no idea who Socrates is, let alone how his discourses went, except like 2 of you out of 100. So again, I'm just wasting my fucking time. You're wasting your time. And I look at the views, and the views don't seem to be affected. Doesn't matter what I say. The subscriptions are never affected. The more shit I throw at you, the more subscriptions I get. It just keeps going up and up and up and up. So the only thing I can think about is that there is an innate knowing in your consciousness that keeps you around, because you know that I have the answers, and I'm talking sense, and I'm speaking from the depth of the cosmos. I'm actually speaking from the mind of God. That's where I'm coming from. And so intuitively, innately, there's something within you that knows that, and that's why you keep hanging around. And even though you don't grasp probably hardly anything, if anything, of what I say, there's something that just keeps you watching, because unconsciously you're building up all of this stuff. And I suppose it's like what I was doing some 14 years ago, reading philosophy, psychology, and all this stuff which never meant, hardly anything to me at the time. But then all of a sudden, after 5 years, wow, the penny dropped and I was in it. And it hasn't stopped from there on. So simple, really, the complete and utter tosh that's written in the Bible. And you've got all of these PhD muppets, usually the Jews, because it's so important for them to try to make some sense out of that complete and utter gobbledygook, contradictory rubbish, complete garbage. The vast majority of it is written for peasants in the fucking desert, all those years ago. For God's sakes, well, why didn't you go to Athens, Jesus? What a fucking plonker. I mean, Hermes Trismegistus, he went to Atlantis, and then Thoth, he went to ancient Egypt, and he was among all the pharaohs and everything like that. Jesus went to some dusty peasant shithole in fucking Israel. Come on, people. No, it's just a contrivance. And so when you read the Gnostics and that sort of stuff, there's a whole lot more sense. That compilation of Old Testament and New Testament, I just skimmed the surface, and it's got the most rudimentary, basic of crap in there that the peasants are going to be able to grasp. The real stuff is in Gnosticism. The real stuff is in alchemy. The real stuff is deeply hidden in Illuminati, Masonic, Egyptian symbolisms, and Syrian symbolisms, and all this sort of thing, Sumeria, and that's where the real stuff is. But it's all dead and it's all gone, and it's never to be retrieved again. So people will be advise, like I made a video about, forgetting all that. What's the point? You're just banging your head against the wall. You will never, ever, ever, ever know what those symbols meant, because you will only ever get some person's interpretation. It could be a super duper PhD scholar on this, that and the other, and you got to take his word for it. one word from one dude for that ancient shit. No, I'm not going there. I'm not doing it. What I'm doing is I'm relying on my own collective instinctual unconsciousness, because that is what wrote it in the first place. It's our collective consciousness which created all of this stuff, and so we tap into that, like I tap into that. How do you tap into that? You tap into that via meditation or psychedelics. That's how you tap into your akasha. You tap into the source of it. You don't listen to anybody with whatever their mumbo jumbo is, but if there's somebody around that is a scholar and is a spiritualist and is a philosopher and is a psychonaut, then if you've got all those things together, and then you can take with some sort of seriousness whatever they're saying. But if they're not a psychonaut, if they're not a philosopher, if they're just a studier of language or ancient symbols, that then they're myopic in their scope and they can't see outside. And anybody that's reading the Bible and taking it as God's word, well, they're just fools through and through. It's just evident that it's not God's word. And if it is God's word, then it came via psychedelics, and it's the interpretation of God's word. It isn't God's literal word, because if it was God's literal word, then what a turd he was. What a contradictory, unintelligent, jealous, hateful, murdering mofo he was. Plain and simple. But when you look at, all these suits sitting round with their grey sideburns, speaking about, Yahweh and Moses as if they was actually real things, and what I think, and if we look deep into this, it's just a load of muppetry, people. It's a load of muppetry, and you are fucking desperate to make that muppetry mean something. And it's just pathetic how you desperately bend it and warp it and try and invent shit that just isn't fucking there. Give it up already. It's just a basic load of bullshit for fucking peasants and numbskulls at the time. Just silly stories. And so, somebody that can see it as clear as day, it is all laughable. It's all laughable. And when people, are looking at this and looking at that, they're looking at it like this. And what I say to people, what I've always said, stop fucking trying to look at things like this. Put them down and then go 50 billion miles in any direction and then look at those things. And then you'll see whatever you're looking at in a whole new light. Stop looking at this world or the muppetry from the egoic mind. You will never find what's going on in this cosmos with the egoic mind. The egoic mind is just a program in the matrix, for God's sake. Get outside of the fucking matrix. Psychedelics or spiritual experiences or deep meditation, that's how you do it. And so I've done all this, and that's why I can see like that, and that's why you can't. And many of you never will, because you've not been blessed genetically, spiritually, cosmically with the minds to do this. It's not everybody's bag. You're probably good at other shit. And so, that's it. And there is nothing that ever comes through any of the comments that's remotely, getting close to what I've ever been speaking about. And I'm just like, you're too myopic, people. And first and foremost, if you're young, if you are under 40 for a beginning, don't even fucking think that you're coming anywhere close, because you're not. Look at all these philosophers, all of them, they're all fucking bald and grey and fucking beards 4 feet fucking long. It takes that long before you've got any fucking idea what's going on here. And I'm just starting, by the way. It's horses for courses. I mean, in my particular instance, I was born to do this. And my whole life has been working towards it every single step of the way. Every single experience I've had, I'm looking back and I can see that it was all written. My whole life is written. And I am a projection from consciousness to come, to look and to assess and to cogitate and to format and to defrag and then to put back out in a more digestible format for these current times. And I'm evidently failing to do it because I've been placed in a epoch, in a particular time span whereby the human being is dying. Cognitively, they are dying. Spiritually, they're mostly dead. This last 100 years has killed them. It's been like the plague on the mind. It's fucking eradicated any facility and ability of being able to think deeply and broadly and retain information. Like a scientist, we go from here to here and to here, and being a scientist, we're either working forwards or we're working backwards. We're working by deduction. No, we're working by induction, going forwards. What if this and what if that? Maybe if we did this and maybe if we did that. What am I going to get? You hypothesize about what you're going to get. That's induction. Deduction is you work back. Well, this happened and then this happened and then this happened and then all that sort of thing. So you got these facilities, cognizant facilities, where we can go so-called into the future and then so-called into the past. And so when you can do both of these things and work in the present with whatever, you can deduce from what you experience, then you'll be, reasonably well endowed, to do it. And all I'm conveying in my videos is that the massive amount of literature that I have consumed, uploaded within this past 14 years, has given me a clarity on how the people thought who wrote this stuff. And I can see many, many flaws in the vast majority of it. And one of the things that we can't ever seem to extract out of these ancient literatures is the use of mind consciousness altering substances. You've got an allusion to it in Egyptian iconography. You've got the blue lotus, then you've got the pine cone being offered towards the front of the face, then you've got the key of life, you've got these things, you've got these symbols, you've got the blue lotus, which is said to be psychedelic, then you've got all the rituals and stuff what were going on, and then you've got the book of the dead, and all this stuff. It came out of substances, people. It came out of mastering out-of-body experiences and all this stuff which priests were involved with. Now, in the Emerald Tablets, there's 13 Emerald Tablets, and they're supposed to be hundreds of thousands of years old, dating back to, the Atlantean times, maybe even prior that. I think it was Tablet 4, Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice named, he's speaking about out-of-body experiences. He is basically saying what he does and how he enters into other dimensions. And when I read those tablets, I had not long learned how to do astral projection. And I'm like, fuck! That fucking dude is talking about astral projection! How he lays absolutely still in the dead of night for an eternity, and still rumblings start to emerge from within, and then all this ancient speak, but basically what he was saying, it was the onset of an astral projection, and then leaving the body and entering into other spiritual realms. And so, what's in here, people, is vastly deeper than you can ever comprehend. And, all the experiences that I've got, I know what these people were speaking about. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I know. And I'm so self-assured because every cell in my body, every fucking ounce of my consciousness is telling me that I'm absolutely right about all this stuff. And because every single thing just fits so perfect. It's just like, you know, the tabernacles in the Bible, you know, which I'm mentioning, you know, quite often these days. Hello, these elite priests. People had to carry those tabernacles around for 40 fucking years in the desert, and they had to erect them absolutely explicitly how God had commanded Moses to tell his people to do it. And people were under the threat of death if they ever fucked with a fucking ounce of that material, or if they got it wrong. And if anybody ever entered into these tabernacles when they weren't authorized, and it's said that the Ark of the Covenant is supposed to be been housed in those as well. There's some mystical shit going on those. That's what was going on, people. There was taking of entheogens, and that's why all the plumes of white smoke was coming out of them. That's why if anybody went in there who wasn't authorised, then they would have been dead in an instant, because otherwise they would have blabbed it off to everybody else. And so all these things, they just are fitted in so very, very readily and elementary on my journey of all this stuff. And that's all I'm saying, and I'm tired of it, really. I'm tired of it. And like someone suggests, just write your book, Aaron. Just write your fucking book. Concentrate on the book, and then probably intelligent people are going to be reading that book. Probably people who have had out-of-body experiences, who have had psychedelic entheogenic experiences, who have had spiritual and mystical experiences, who have studied this stuff for a long, you know, number of years, and have had real experiences all around the world. That's what it's going to take. Ain't nobody going to be grasping this stuff if they haven't had the experience, because you haven't had the modules, you haven't had the receptors born into your minds to receive them. The only thing that you've got that you can compare what I say to, I've read the Bible, and that's not what Jesus said, and that's not what my God says, and that's it. You know, and I go into this stupid fucking muppet because really, it is. Your minds are like that. If you're so embroiled in this fucking bullshit Bible, then that's the depiction of your state of consciousness. Tiny, myopic, minuscule. Like, you know, retarded. Jesus, come to me. I'm going to Jesus, been outside. Will you come to save me? Ugh, really? Fucking whatever. Anyway, I've got things to do.